Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Health and Wealth Podcast with your hosts, Tim and Carter.
What's trending, Enrichers? Carter Wilcoxon, founder of CSI Financial Group here, with my co-host and former wealth advisor, Tim James, founder of
ChemicalFreeBody.com and your new health advisor. This is the show where we reveal the connection between physical and financial abundance.
Hey, welcome back, Enrichers. Carter Wilcoxon here, coming to you live from sunny, warm Phoenix, Arizona, post Phoenix Open week here in Phoenix Open. And I am joined, of course, as always, from coming back from Idaho and Portland, back home now, my co-host, Mr. Chemical Free Body himself, Tim James. Tim, how are you, my man?
I'm good, but let's get the record clear. Portland is not my home. I'm temporary here. I'm from Eastern Oregon. I'm a redneck. Let's just get clear on that. Right, I'll be moving back soon. I'm getting things in order right now to get moved, as everybody knows. So I got a trailer bought. I'm going to be picking it up here in the next week or two. I'm getting a new driveway put down for my parents. A little mud, eventually rock settles. And I literally grew up on a dirt road, and it's kind of back right now. So I'm trying to help mom and dad out, take care of the mud issue. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to chat with our guest. We get to chat with him just a little bit beforehand, and Brad's got a good energy, and I think it's going to be a great show. So Brad, thanks for being here, brother.
Absolutely. Excited. Yeah.
So Brad Gotto, Fiat Wealth Management, which I know we're going to probably get a chance in the second segment for sure to get into, where that comes from and everything. But Enrichers, I'm very excited about having Brad on the show because he's got a unique story that is very similar to how my path and journey has been, but just opposite. And what I mean by that is I've been in the wholesale arena, being an advisor to advisors. That's how I got into the industry. Then I got into the retail space, started working with individual clients and everything. And then from there, I got back into wholesale. His story is a little bit opposite of that, where it was more wholesale or retail, wholesale, and then back into the retail space working with clients. So Brad, let's get into your backstory. The Enrichers like to hear, on, what got you into the financial services business in the first place. So, and you do, to your point, Tim, he's got a great energy to him, which is why I'm probably the most excited about this. And he knows how to party. He's got a little,
he's got a full bar at the office.
Yeah, full bar at the office. So that's, pretty cool. So anyway, let's
drink
go back.
Responsibly.
Yes, drink responsibly and podcast responsibly, right, if you will. But I'm really interested, Brad, in your backstory and how you got through this journey in the financial services, because it does give you a very unique perspective, which is really, really cool because you've been on both sides of the equation. So let's talk a little bit about how you originally got into the financial services business. Did you have some influences, when you were a kid? Was it in high school? Was it college? So, share with the Enrichers really your journey to this financial services path.
Yeah, it wasn't me, which let me give a little bit of a disclaimer, right? Because you called me out for having a glass of whiskey on a podcast, and we're in different time zones. It's after work hours where I'm at. So I stayed late for you. My wife's at home taking care of my kids, doing her thing. And so, I have to throw that out there. But I stumbled, fell, tripped, whatever you want to say, into this industry. Never once ever thought I was going to be in this industry. Didn't know anything about the industry. I mean, to the point where the day I got hired as a financial advisor at a big box firm, when I first busted in, I remember calling my wife and saying, "Hey, good news. Like, I got the job." And it was a heck of a process, like 5 interviews, like long process, all this stuff. And she's like, "That's awesome. So what do you do?" And I was like, "I have no idea." So I didn't even really understand what financial advisors did when I took the job as an advisor, which of course begs the question, well, why in the heck did you take the job? One, young, married, needed a job at that point in my life. And two, I'm hyper competitive. And this interview process, I told you it was a 5 interview process with this firm. And it started, interview number 1 was a group interview. And it turned me off. I was like, why am I in this? They didn't tell you that. They just, hey, come in for an interview. I'm like, okay, great. And we get there and there's like 30 people in a room. I'm like, okay, Well, then I found out like 1 out of 200 from that room actually made it past not only getting hired, but then made it kind of the first 10 weeks of like the chopping block. And my competitive juices just started flowing. And so all I knew is I wanted to be 1 out of 200. That's all I knew. I had no idea what an advisor did. In fact, when I got my securities license exam manuals, to start studying for these tests, I remember thinking, all I'm going to do is I'm going to read through these. I'm a good test taker. And most of the time you hear people talk about this, they tell you they're bad test takers. Like talking about people about like golf. Like they immediately, you can't just ask somebody like, hey, do you golf? There's always the disclaimer of, yeah, this is my handicap. They basically tell you how bad they are at golf, right?
Yep.
It's the only sport where that happens. If you play pickup basketball, you just say, yes, I play pickup basketball. You don't say, yeah, but I shoot 30% from the field. Like that's not, you don't keep these sort of stats in anything but golf. But like in this arena, I thought, okay, I'm a great test taker. I can get through these things. I'll just highlight. I'll read all this stuff. I'm going to highlight what I don't understand. I'm going to focus on those things. I got through the first handful of chapters of the book. I gone through 3 highlighters and I highlighted everything but the and everything else. And I was like, holy moly, I'm in for it. Like, this is not my background. In fact, I went to a small private Christian school. I was a youth ministry major. And so out of school, I was a youth pastor. And so I'm youth pastor trained, financial advisor born at the age of 23, maybe. 23, 24 in that time frame is when I kind of busted into the industry.
Wow. So, so when you started learning like what a financial advisor does, what you probably learn, would be my guess, this is 20 years of working with, financial advisors, is that all of those books didn't really prepare you for what an actual financial advisor does, though.
No. And honestly, even at that point, I still had no idea what I was going to do. But what I realized very quickly for me, right, because to be successful at anything in life, you have to have a why. You have to have a real reason and a passion around what you do. And the reason I got into youth ministry is because I had a passion for trying to help young adults find meaning in life. But I was raised by a single mom. My parents divorced when I was young, 3 kids. I was in the middle. And so I've got an older sister and a younger sister. So I've got all the excuses, right? I'm the middle child. I was the only boy, single parent, that whole deal. No money. And I knew nothing about money. And I went to a private Christian school and I put my way through this private Christian school with every student loan that the government would possibly give me, every private loan I could possibly get. And I still had a bill at the end of every quarter because I couldn't take out enough loans to pay the bills. And so I had jobs all the way through. And so as I started learning about this stuff, I thought, you know what? This is really cool because I just kind of stumbled into an area that I know nothing about. I've never had any money. My family's never had any money. And because of that, I feel like we've, suffered 1,000 deaths that we don't need to suffer. And so I'm going to learn about this stuff and I'm going to be the agent of change in my family's history or my family's story. I'm going to be the generation where this stuff just changes. And so that's where my passion or my why has come from at this point, and kind of driven me now 15 years, 16 years into this industry or whatever it's been.
So, born and raised in Minnesota, is that correct?
Iowa.
Iowa.
No.
All right.
No, I mean, a little, you can barely see it back there, but those are some coasters. Yeah. Those are Iowa Hawkeye coasters. I'm an Iowa Hawkeye diehard. We moved around a lot. I've lived in Texas, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota. My family moved, but I'm an Iowa boy.
All right. So, so you're a big Chuck Long fan then?
Oh, absolutely. In 1985, that was one of the best years the Hawkeyes ever had.
Yeah. Well, so good that I even remember that, right? And I'm not a fan.
Well, there's not a lot of like Iowa quarterbacks you can point to. We put a lot of people in the NFL. I think we have the 6th most of, like, we're tied for number 6 in the country of all the 125 Division I schools, including the SEC. The Hawkeyes put a ton of people in the NFL, but they're not quarterbacks. It's offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers, stuff like that. So Chuck Long was the exception to the Iowa rule that we're not a quarterback school.
Yeah. So, so then, how did you end up in Minnesota then from Iowa? Was that the transition into getting into the financial advisory
college? Yeah. The private Christian school I went to was up here in Minnesota, and I'm actually married to my high school sweetheart. Met her in obviously high school and youth group, went to prom with her, and she went to the University of Iowa, the Hawkeyes, and I went to this small Christian school called Bethel up in the Twin Cities. We did the long distance thing for 4 years. And when she graduated, she was a nursing major, has been a nurse now for 17 years, and just more job opportunity in the Twin Cities than there was in Iowa. So here we are now. A lot to regret. The winters up here, absolutely terrible, but you can't make all the decisions right.
Well, no, that's for sure. But that was also the thing about it, right? You had to go where the opportunity presented itself, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. And I just got a chance to start talking with you. It can't be more than 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, right? Originally. Yeah. And there was something about you that not until you started talking about your backstory did I get it. Very similar backgrounds. And I know this is really about you, but it's interesting on like whenever Tim was talking about, you've got a great vibe and everything. So I'm a middle child, right?
Okay.
I made the determination that the curse stops with me. There's things that happen in my family that it's just, you're literally saying, it's like you're in my head. It was crazy. So now the only difference is I've got an older sister and a younger brother. So I wasn't,
okay.
But I was, the middle child, born and raised in Little Rock, Arkansas. So small town and stuff
Sure.
like that. And then obviously I'm in Phoenix, Arizona now, but that was, maybe our path was a little bit different. And then I went to a fairly nice climate compared to what you have to deal with in the wintertime. A little bit different there, right? But
I'll get there some point. I will. I'm not a Minnesota lifer by any stretch of the imagination.
No, yeah, that's for sure. And speaking of golf, right? I know that we've talked a little bit about that. You got to come out here so we can play a little bit of golf while you're out here and enjoy the nice weather.
Well, you can. Yeah, I will play golf with you all day long. I'm just going to warn you that I get my money's worth. I pay less dollars per swing than most people. Yeah.
So speaking of, do you play golf, right? And I think that was interesting because you're exactly right. Us golfers, we always have to have like this disclaimer on, well, I can hold my own, or well, I'm this handicapper. It is like the only sport that is like that. Although, golf is a unique sport in that it's the only sport that you're your own official, right? And it's integrity driven. And Tim and I, we've had this conversation with multiple guests before, and we talk about golf on a regular basis. It really is the impetus of the change of trajectory. I use that word all the time for my life, right? And because it is so integrity driven, that's why I really enjoy anybody else that plays golf. They tend to have that same type of a mentality of, adversity and overcoming that. And, but golf is a great sport to get to really know somebody. Don't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're your own official to your point, and you're going to be as honest as you want to be or what have you. At the end of the day, I just always take solace in the fact that even if I'm playing with somebody whose handicap is a single digit, like a 2 or a 3, they stink less than I do, but they still stink. They still have a handicap, right? Yep. And they still pay the exact same green fees that I paid. So unless you're getting paid to play the sport, we all stink at different levels, but none of us are good. The good people get paid to play. It's just the fact that the course it's never the same. You play the same course every single day, but your experience is different every single time. And so that challenge, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I don't know too many people that are entrepreneurs by mind and spirit that don't love the game of golf, because there's a lot of similarities in this idea that you can't get to the top of the mountain. There's nothing, you can't conquer it. You could always be better. You could always do better. And it's that thing that kind of keeps us coming back, and why we play such a ridiculous game that a non-entrepreneur mind will never understand. They're like, I don't understand why you would ever chase a ball around this tiny little white ball on hundreds of acres of ground, and then you find the ball and you're lucky enough to find it and you hit it again. But it's this constant chase and drive of, I want to be better. And I love the idea that there's no end of the rainbow, that I can stay on that track and just constantly work towards it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, your family. So you married your high school sweetheart.
I did.
Yeah. And then, so you've been married then for 17 years? Is that what I heard?
This summer will be 17 years.
Wow. Congratulations. And then how many kids you guys got?
2 man defense in our household. No zone. Yeah.
So
2 on
now,
2.
well, it's interesting again. Me and my wife, we have 2 kids together, right? So,
Oh, there you go.
was it sort of like one of those things where we didn't want to have a middle child because we were middle kids?
I honestly, it was my wife that kind of shut us down. Like now, in her defense, she's got the way harder job than I do, and it's not,
Amen.
when it comes to having kids. And so I would have kept going. But my wife was too. She had some rough pregnancies, and she was done it too. And you know what? Everything happens for a reason. And we got 2 boys now. They're 12 and 8 years old. Liam, his full name's William. We call him Liam, and Hudson. And we're 7 nights a week, man. We got baseball, winter baseball going on. We got basketball going on, church nights going on. So we're 2 is plenty.
Yeah, I think it's a good mix. There's no doubt about it. I was blessed to have one of each, which my wife was just like praying to God. She really wanted a girl, right?
Yeah.
And so God delivered, and then we had our son who just turned 15.
Okay.
In January, and what's really cool is because I am a golfer, which is why I moved to Phoenix, Arizona in the first place. And he's an aspiring golfer. And now I get to play golf with him on a regular basis. And I can't wait to the point where he beats me, right? That's the next milestone for him, is to be able to beat Dad. And it has nothing to do with his ability. It has nothing to do with his length. It has nothing to do with anything except for that he's trying to beat Dad, right? And I think mentally he's just like, he can't get over that hump. We played on Sunday, and he was doing pretty good, and then fall off the wagon, and he actually broke down on the golf course, and he's like, why can't I beat you? And so this is my opportunity to teach him on, here's a learning opportunity, right? Yeah. And anytime as a parent, and I'm sure you feel this way too, Brad, anytime you can give a life lesson to your son, you have one, and obviously I have a daughter also, but anytime you can give a life lesson to your child, you take that opportunity. And golf presents so many opportunities out there on the golf course with them.
Well, it sounds like one of the best life opportunities that you're constantly teaching him is, given your background and your drive to create your own success, you're not letting him win. You're not giving him anything. No participations in your household.
There is absolutely no doubt about that. So, all right. So you got 2 boys, 12 and 8, married to your wife for almost 17 years now and everything. So what sent you to Bethel? Why did you not go to school in Iowa? Was it something about Bethel that really attracted?
I thought I was going to be youth pastor for the rest of my life.
Okay.
I've got a story growing up, like we all have. But I found faith at 16 years old, and I just decided at that point, when my life completely flipped, that I wanted to impact other teenagers' lives in that way, in a positive way, the way that mine was. And my youth pastor was a really big influence on my life in high school. Was a really good buddy of mine. He was fresh out of college himself, so our age gap wasn't that big, honestly. He was probably 22 years old. I was 17, 18 years old. And I just decided that I wanted to have the impact on people the way that he did. And so on that basis alone, thought I was going to be in ministry, in paid ministry for the rest of my life, and realized very quickly out of school that as much as I love the idea of ministry, and I intern as everybody does in college, right? Whatever your major is, you kind of have internships that coincide with your major. I was a intern youth pastor for 3 years and worked at a missions organization doing mission trips all over the world, which was super fun. But when I started getting paid to do it, I didn't like it, because I realized that I had to deal with all the politics and bureaucracy of churches and the parents. Love the kids, wasn't a huge fan of the parents, and decided that I should be volunteering again, because when you volunteer, you just get to pour into these kids' lives and love on them and all these cool things. And so, of course, needed to find a paycheck somewhere else and contribute to my household, and literally stumbled, fell, tripped into this industry. Like I said before, now looking back, I can look back 16 years now with the benefit of hindsight, because I'm super smart, and with hindsight, it's always easy to see, but that why I'm here. I couldn't have told you why I got into this industry. Even 5 years into it, I couldn't have really told you, other than I knew I was hyper competitive and I just wanted to be better than everybody around me. But now looking back, I have the same desire to help people that I did then. It may not be a 16-year-old trying to find purpose in life. Now it's a 65-year-old trying to repurpose their life, right? Where it's like my identity is wrapped up in my career and my job, and I've never done anything but this. And I have no idea how to create purpose in this latter stage of my life, or this idea or concept that I've saved this pile of money. But people don't save a pile of money to have a pile of money. That's not why they do it. But they've never given meaning and purpose to their wealth. And so helping them create that and teach them how to either spend their money and have a good time, or be generous with their money and give it away. I get the same fulfillment from that as I do. I still volunteer, by the way, since the 15, 16 years I've been out of paid ministry with high school youth. I've volunteered to do it probably 14 of those 16 years, still doing it today. So still fulfilling that, but finding the similar type of fulfillment in what I would argue is the most intimate area of people's lives. Like in America, for whatever reason, our culture has like hidden, and made it very secretive, what your income is and what your finances look like. Nobody wants to share this stuff. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's very private. It's very, very private. And so to be able to be in that area of these people's lives in a very intimate way is a really cool opportunity. It's not lost on me how awesome that is, that I may be the only person in their life, including their kids and their brothers and sisters, that know this much about their finances, and I get to impact that in a positive way. That's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah,
Awesome. I think that's a pretty good segue. So we're going to take a quick break. Thank you, Brad. And when we get back, we're going to get into what Brad's actually doing on a day-to-day basis to help those folks. We'll be right back.
Estate planning. What does that even mean? When the inevitable happens for everyone on this planet, your estate plan kicks into action. But first, let's start with what an estate is. An estate is simply everything you own. Now, here's the issue and what needs to be understood when this event occurs. You only have two choices on this plan. Number one, either you plan how your estate gets handed out and distributed to those you leave behind. Or number two, your state decides who gets everything you own. For the first time ever, you can now take complete and total control of this plan that you've been deprived of for most of your life and generations before you. You can get personalized assistance along the way with a team of specialists whose job it is to make sure you have true peace of mind. It's important to understand that estate planning is a journey, and rest assured that our team will be available to you all along the way and at every step. Welcome to eState Plan, home of the last estate plan you'll ever need. To learn more, make sure to reach out to your local advisor licensed with us, or go to our website for more information.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here with my co-host Carter Wilcoxon. Today in the house we've got Brad Gotto. Brad, you got a really cool backstory. I was hoping that you were going to get into that because I was reading your bio and there was youth ministries degree, and I was wondering what happened to that deal. So now we know. So now let's get into what are you doing today? Like, you're seeing clients on a daily basis. What are you doing in your practice to help them accomplish their financial goals?
When you think about life, we have clients, that are my age. Don't get me wrong. We have that, but our specialty and kind of our focus is what I would call the descent. So when you think about this idea of climbing Mount Everest, it's like, that's the most daunting. If you're a mountain climber, I mean, that's the highest peak, right? In the process of climbing Mount Everest, if you just forgetting the planning that goes into it, from the day you start climbing, it's a 2-month journey. Right? You don't climb the mountain in a day. It takes 2 months to get up there. And people spend so much time, energy, and effort figuring out how in the world to get up there. Right? And that's the goal. And then you get up there and you celebrate. Then you forget the fact that you have to come back down. Right? And it's just as treacherous coming back down as it was going up. There are people that die descending Mount Everest, just like there are people that die climbing that mountain. And so, but the muscles that you use to walk down a set of stairs are different than the muscles that you use to get up that set of stairs. And what I've realized in this industry is that, habits are a very powerful thing. Now, Tim, you can probably speak to that, with health and wellness, and developing habits really matters in life. And the people have a habit of being savers. They have a habit of living below their means. They have a habit of putting money away and watching their accounts grow over time. Now, obviously there's variances in the market, but for the most part, watching the value go up over time. And so when they get to retirement, behaviorally, the biggest thing that they struggle with is spending it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to do. It really is. Because all you've ever done is save it. And once that money goes into that 401k or that IRA or that whatever after-tax account, wherever you're saving your money, there's just kind of this idea that you just don't take it back out. And so behaviorally, getting people to spend their money is the hardest thing about my job, which is ridiculous. That when you verbalize it, you're like, what? As a financial, you're telling me the hardest part of your job is convincing your clients to spend their money? Yeah, it is. That's the hardest thing that we do. And so our focus at Fiat is teaching our clients how to spend their money. And spending it could be on their fun and lifestyle. Spending it could be reorging it through legacy documents, wills and trusts, and giving it to the next generation. Spending it could be giving it to charitable organizations and giving the money away. I mean, there's a lot of different ways, but at the end of the day, they've done study after study after study, and I can show you white paper after white paper to prove you can't take it with you. It's not, and so the average person that we work with here at Fiat is they're hardworking people. We're working with people that, they had jobs and they worked their butt off and they were fiscally responsible and they saved money and they raised kids and they, they're America, right? Like that when you think about the American dream and post-war era and these soldiers coming home and building these houses and saving all this money and the baby boomers, that's the average clientele of our firm. And now all of a sudden they're 65 years old. They're sitting on $1 million, $5 million, $10 million. They have no idea how they got here. They have no idea. They would never classify themselves as a millionaire, yet they are. And they're living on their Social Security and their pension, and they're not touching their money. And so what do we do every day at Fiat? We teach people to put the newspaper down. We teach people how to not be anxious, how to not worry, and how to live what we call an everyday is Saturday lifestyle.
Yeah.
You get them to turn off the news too?
Yeah. I mean, that's our goal, right?
You mentioned
at the end of the day,
fear.
The clients that have been with us for any period of time, the relationship kind of becomes this fun-loving, hey, it's Brad over at Fiat. How's it going? Don't call me. I'm in Florida. I'm on a golf course. I'm in hole 16. I got the run of my life going, call me in 14 months. That's the goal, right? Is to have their 6, right? And make sure that there's somebody removing the stress and anxiety and removing the unknowns and the lack of control that they have or they feel that they have in their life financially so that they can feel the freedom to do what they want.
Yeah. So really what you're saying there is you want them to be aspirational. You want them to look at, to the future with anticipation as opposed to apprehension and just enjoy your all your hard work and you help them to plan around and obviously they're fiscally responsible, growing that money and everything.
Yeah.
So you're also helping them to be fiscally responsible on how to spend it as well.
100%. And Carter, my industry as a whole, if there's exceptions to every rule, but if you're going to paint with a broad brush and just kind of brush my industry, the financial advisor industry, I think we're on the whole, we're pretty good at teaching clients how to save money and grow their pile of money. On the whole, I think we're terrible at teaching them how to spend it. Absolutely terrible.
So you
story.
And I couldn't agree with you more, obviously, right? And that's why, the vast majority of the type of advisors that we have, that I've been working with for almost 20 years now in the wholesale advisory space, are more in that baby boomer senior market, decumulation phase, and wanting to become basically the Sherpa of planning for these clients, so that when you start descending the mountain that, you're doing it in a way that's going to be the most, tax efficient, obviously, risk mitigation, tax mitigation, things of that nature. So that was why whenever I met you and I learned more about you initially about coming on the podcast, I'm like, here's a guy that is really after my heart and someone that is out there trying to do the best by his clients. And, talk a little bit, if you don't mind, fiduciarily speaking, right? I mean, that word fiduciary gets thrown around an awful lot, right?
Pretty hot button right now.
It's a very hot button, but it's almost like people use that word fiduciary. Like if you're not a fiduciary, like you don't have your client's best interest at heart, because the type of solutions that I know that you probably provide are more in the suitability world, not necessarily in the fiduciary world, but you care about your clients so extremely, in a very extreme way that, you want to talk a little bit about that fiduciary hat that you probably wear on an everyday basis, regardless of that title that you might have.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because, and just for the listeners' sake, these questions are preloaded. So I actually mean that when I say it's interesting that you bring that up, because I talk to clients about this a lot because they ask, right? They have they Google, what should I ask? I'm searching for a financial advisor. What questions should I ask? What should I be looking for? And so they all have the same questions. They all come up with the same 5 or 7 questions, and one of them is this fiduciary word. And we are as far as our wealth management securities business concerned, we are a fee-only fiduciary firm. We offer insurance services. So you mentioned suitability standard. Anytime you deal in the insurance world, that's what it's held to. It's a different standard in the insurance world. But all that to say this, fiduciary, when you think about this idea or rule, law, whatever you want to call it, that I have to do what's in my client's best interest, right? Well, what the heck does that mean? What does it even mean? Like, I don't know what the markets are going to do tomorrow. I don't know what the economy is going to do tomorrow. I don't know any of that stuff. And so how do you legitimately do what's in your client's best interest when the decisions that you're making are predicated on stuff that we have no idea? And so the way I've taken that personally, now this is me, this is my opinion, and I've been married long enough to know that my opinion is not always correct. So let's just get that out there. But in my opinion, as a fiduciary, it means 2 things to me personally. One, letter of the law, I have to be able to justify quantifiably why I made a decision for my client. That goes without saying, right? That's the given. Second, and this is where I add on to that, I would expand the fiduciary to include what I would call the grocery store test. So hang with me for 60 seconds. If I'm in the grocery store and shopping for, ketchup, and I'm in the aisle, I'm looking at the ketchups, and I'm trying to decide which one to buy because my wife buys most of the ketchup, and I don't understand what's a good deal, not a good deal. And I look down at the other end of the aisle, and I see somebody looking at peanut butter, and it's my client, and they haven't seen me yet. I spotted them, but they haven't seen me. The question is, do I go talk to them, or do I hide in the next aisle and hope that they don't see me? If the answer to that relationship between me and that particular client or family that I work with is I'm hiding in the next aisle and hope that they don't see me, I would argue personally, I cannot be a fiduciary to them. I cannot do what's in their best interest if I do not like them and I do not have a personal relationship with them and I do not know them on an intimate level and I do not know what drives their money decisions, what their fears in life are, what their goals are, why they save that pile of money in the first place, all of these sorts of things. If all of that is not true, my personal belief is if I see you in my calendar on a Wednesday morning, I get up, first thing I do is I look at my calendar, what I got going on today, and I see John and Jane lunch bucket in my calendar, and I'm like, ugh, and I want to see them today. I don't believe I can be a fiduciary to them. I can make the right, numerical, quantifiable decision for them, but because they're not getting my best, I have to do what's in my client's best interest. In order for them to get my best, I have to love the idea that we're in a partnership together, that we're married in this relationship. And so fiduciary is a very loaded term to me. If I can get up and I can look at my calendar and I got 5 visits in my calendar with families that I work with that day, and I'm excited to see every single one of them, 100% I'm going to do what's in their best interest because I love them. Just like I would do with my mom's best interest. I don't need to be legally responsible to do what's in my mom's best interest. That's naturally, it's innate in the fact that I love her the way that I love her. And so if I can extend some of that onto the families that I work with, then I don't have to worry about what the SEC says. It's going to come from the right spot.
Yeah. That is such a phenomenal analogy, or the grocery test, the grocery list test. Yeah, that was seriously really, really good. And you're exactly right. Right. And one of the things that, I'm very proud of the fact for our culture around here and what we try to do with the sort of the same mentality, right? Yeah. If I see on my calendar, I've got an advisor that's on my calendar, we're going to have a meeting or whatever, or I'm calling them or whatever. If I don't want to hang out with them, I'm not doing my job in making the type of recommendations for them that ultimately lands on their clients, right? That's why my responsibility as a wholesaler is a huge responsibility, right? So, but I also at the same time, I have a mentality around here that is part of our culture that we don't want to work with a transactional advisor, right? Yep. We want to work with someone who wants to be a transformational advisor, because that goes to the type of person that they are and the type of households that they want to work with, right? Yep. If you're just trying to be a transactional advisor, we're probably not a good fit for one another, right? You have to be a comprehensive planner if you're going to work within the confines of what it is that we try to provide solution wise for those advisors, and why I love doing what I do every single day, right? And it is competitive. We're both in a super competitive industry. And if you don't mind, can you expand a little bit, or at least give us a little bit of a history about your journey, so that the enrichers have a better idea of the unique perspective that you have with someone who's been, on the retail to start, and then you got that wholesale experience, and then back into the retail space?
The quick down and dirty is Ameriprise is where I started. It's where I met Matt Stahl. Matt's my current business partner. We left Ameriprise. He started 05. I started 06. We left Ameriprise 09, started Fiat Wealth Management. Fiat doesn't come from the car. Fiat is a Latin word, and loosely defined in economic textbooks, it's faith-based currency. The gold standard's gone, 1971 or whatever it was. And so the pieces of paper that we exchange every single day are exactly that. They're pieces of paper. And so there's a lot of faith that go on in these transactions. And we just believe that in order for any positive impact to happen in relationship with our clients, there has to be a lot of faith involved. And so hence the name. So we started in 09. And in 2010, Matt and I both had our first children. And at that point, just to be very frank, the business wasn't mature enough to afford two owners. And so we had to make the tough choice that somebody was going to stay back and maintain the business, and somebody else had to go find a paycheck somewhere else. I had more interest in making that transition than Matt did. So he kept Fiat rocking, to his credit, all on his own. And I went to the wholesale world in November-ish, 2010. Started working with the independent advisors all over the country. I didn't have a territory. And quickly realized I loved it, because my favorite part of this industry, outside of serving the families, behind closed doors, my favorite part is interacting with other successful advisors and figuring out what it is that they're doing. Because I'm dead convinced I don't know everything, and I'm dead convinced I could be better. And so driven by that, I always want to know what my competition is doing if they're willing to share. And so this idea of being able to get into all these other independent advisors' offices under the guise of wholesaling, right? And I've got a product for you, and so I get to talk to you, and I just was a sponge, and I'm soaking all this information up. So from 2010 till 2019, that's what I was doing. But the last couple of years, there was a lot of overlap there. I was always feeding Matt the information back and saying, hey, I was just in North Carolina. I learned this from advisor ABC. Hey, I was just in LA, and I just found out this advisor was doing that, and it didn't work. So don't ever do that. That kind of deal. But in 2017, 2018, we started having more serious conversations, started doing business nights and weekends on a handshake, kind of together with this idea of remarrying each other. I kind of, from a business marriage, people always say this is my work husband or this is my work wife. I remarried the same guy twice from a business perspective. So, married him, divorced him, sold out half the practice back to him, and then rebought it back at a big multiplier 9 years later, to his credit. Yep. and quit the wholesale gig. I think what is today? 2022. So
Yep,
I don't know. I think, gosh, I can't even remember. 2019, 2020. I don't remember exactly. I think it was the end of 2020. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Was doing both for a handful of time.
Was it pre-COVID or post-COVID? Or
dude, I have COVID brain. I have no clue. I can't. It's about 2.5 years. We've been kind of rolling at this together again. And so when we got back together, it was him and I and one part-time assistant. And we kind of Jerry Maguired it together again, and redefined who we wanted to be and what we wanted to be at that point. And now just on Monday of this week, we hired the team member number 13.
Wow, that's awesome. And I got to tell you, the unique perspective that you have that most don't. Matt's, I'm sure he considers himself very blessed that you did decide to come back and buy back in and everything, to his credit. And of course, now from that time, whenever you left one child and now you had 2 kids and all that. So
he's got 4.
He's got 4.
He doubled me up.
Yeah. So just out of curiosity, and I can see Tim, and I know we're getting ready to break for a commercial break and everything. When you went back, or during pillow talk or whatever with your wife, how was that support from her making the transition again?
I drug my poor wife through the mud multiple times. My wife knows I have this insatiable desire to change. Most people, it's just scientific, and Tim could probably talk about this far better than I can. Homeostasis, right? The body resists change, all this kind of stuff. Like I live on it. And so to the point where I trade cars constantly. I know it's a terrible financial decision, but I get bored. I don't care. Like I know I'm losing money, whatever. Like I was raised with change because of my upbringing, right? We moved all the time. The parents are being divorced in different schools and different friends and different houses and different states. And so I was just kind of raised that way. So my wife, God bless her, just kind of gave me the little smile that we know our wives give us from time to time. It's like, well, honey, this is what you need to do. So,
yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Go ahead, Tim James.
Okay. Well, I think that was a really good segment. I really enjoyed hearing your story, and I think it's really cool. I got this damn fruit fly in here. He keeps buzzing around on me. But it was if you guys saw me earlier, I'm like trying to catch the fly with the chopsticks. It was like a little fruit fly, and he just
Miyagi over there.
I'm getting dive bombed. But no, I just think it was really cool that that you and your partner came back together, and now you're having all this success and stuff. It's pretty awesome. So there's a lot of people out there. I know the advisors are some advisors are, when you're new, it's like you're just like scraping. Yep. You'll take any client, and it's nice to be in a position where you can say, yeah, you're kind of a jackass. You can go down the street and go over there. Because it's really important to work. You said it earlier with who you resonate with.
Yeah.
On both sides. So for those people out there looking for an advisor or looking for a doctor or healthcare professional, like you need to really like them. You need to really resonate with them and understand, and on the vice versa, they need to like you too. Otherwise, you're really not. That's the true fiduciary deal. There is like just having somebody that really cares about you, has your best. That's best interest. It's the mom litmus test, basically.
Yeah. And,
so anyway, go ahead.
Before we go to break, and I just want to throw this in just real fast because one of the things that we try to reinforce on a regular basis with the advisors that we work with is the 4A client. And I want to share with you, which I think you'll appreciate this mentality, is the clients that you work with, you want them to have the right attitude, the right aptitude with proper assets who can become advocates for you.
Sure.
So if you can create as many 4A clients, that's the recipe for success. So anyway,
I see. I like what you did there. That doesn't just, those 4A's don't come naturally. A words are, the Wordle word of the day was an A word. I don't know if you guys have got into this Wordle thing. You got sucked into it. A words are hard to come up with. That's impressive. 4 of them.
Yeah. So there you go. So anyway, Tim James, go ahead and take us out to break.
Well, yeah, and if you are listening and you are an advisor that's struggling, you should get a hold of Carter, because he could help you. I know when I was a financial advisor, looking back when I met Carter, I remember I told you, I was like, damn, dude, if I was like back in the day doing what I was doing, I would have hired you in a nanosecond, because you could have, I had no internet skills, tech skills, all that stuff. You could have just made my life easy. And, and fill the rooms and give me the scripts and do all that stuff. So I think it's a really turnkey thing over at CSI Financial Group. So anyway, we're going to take a break. When we get back, Brad's going to ask me any question he wants on health. We'll be right back.
You want the absolute best for yourself, and you want it to be easy. That's why we created Green 85. It helps with detoxifying the body gently. We're proud it's chemical-free, unlike almost all other supplements you'll find. Bottom line, Green 85 will get you healthier. We look forward to hearing what Green 85 did for you.
To get this product and our other amazing products, go to chemicalfreebody.com. That's chemicalfreebody.com.
What's up, Enrichers? Tim James here with my co-host Carter Wilcox, and today in the house we've got Brad Gotto. Brad, thanks for coming on today, brother. And now we get to flip the script. We've been talking about financial stuff. Now we're going to talk about the health stuff. So you got any questions for me on health?
Yeah, in overlapping with financial health, right? And then physical health, I don't know how you can, there's an overlap there, in my opinion. And the hardest thing in life in general, financial or physical or otherwise, is consistency. And so, and I'm the chiefest of sinners, right? I'll fluctuate weight, fluctuate diet. Like I just kind of go through these spits and spurts and like have seasons of my life that are amazing, and then seasons of my life that are not as amazing. And so consistency is my question. Like what are the kind of the number, tips and tricks, or like, key things that you look for to create consistency from a health perspective in people's lives? Because at the end of the day, we can all crash diet for a certain period of time and, get ready for spring break or whatever it is that drives us for a short period of time. But to create that long-term consistency in life, I think is what we all desire. It's just my personal opinion, the hardest thing to do.
Okay. Well, I think one thing that's like really simple and a passive approach, which really helps people because we get so busy with, wives and husbands and kids and parents and traveling and doing all this, right, or businesses and careers and all this stuff, is really creating a optimal environment for our physical body and for our mind and for our spiritual health. So I'll give you an example. Like if we always talk about like the back streets in Chicago, right, in the alleys. And the garbage truck drivers, they come in and they're taking the garbage up. But when they strike, the garbage piles up, and then in comes the rats and the bugs, right? So you change the environment and you change how things are going on. Same thing internally with the body, right? If the system's working good and all of a sudden it kind of gets plugged up for whatever reason, standard American diet, stress, lack of nutrition, chemical pollutants stacking up on a cellular level that you can't see, and most people don't even know about this stuff. Eventually the garbage, it piles up, and then the bugs and the rats comes in. And in our case, that's the viruses, bacteria, mold, yeast, fungus, parasites, mutagens, cancer. Then they take over. So it wasn't like they just showed up overnight. We had to create an environment for them to thrive. We had to create a very acid-based, low oxygen environment. So what we want to create, you mentioned something earlier, homeostasis. It's keeping the body at balance.
Yeah.
And actually, you said you crave change and struggle and stuff like that. So there is a part of the body. It's actually part of the immune system that's not talked about. It's called the interferon system. You can actually look this up. The interferon system it's a part of our immune system and our natural defenses. And it, wipes out, takes care of like germs and cancer cells and that kind of stuff. So it triggers our immune cells to fight those invaders. Interferons, they actually interfere with the viruses and stuff like that. That's why they call them interferons. So this is a resilience factor. So when your body is hit, with a virus, the interference system creates all these interferons, and then your body actually becomes 1,000, or immune system becomes 1,000 times stronger than it was before. It's like doing a push-ups. The more you do push-ups, the stronger your chest muscles go. So the more we're exposed to different things, we take a hit and we come back stronger. We take a hit and we come back stronger. So that was a side note. But back to your question, which is it's environment, man. It's the environment. So what are some major inputs that a lot of people aren't thinking about? Well, number one is your air that you're breathing. We take 20,000 breaths a day, and if it's like what is it, natural gas? They put a scent in there so that we know that it's in there. Otherwise, we wouldn't know, right? And that scent allows us to know. It's like, wow, get out of the house, call the natural gas people, or this building could blow up, right? And I could be dead, right? But just because there's things out there that you can't smell, but they're harming you in a different way. They're bioaccumulating. So when you breathe something in, Brad, it's if there's like, let's say it's jet fuel or automobile exhaust or paint off gassing from your room. So anytime a room is painted with conventional paint, 4.5 years, it's off gassing toxic chemicals, and you're breathing it in. Your children are breathing it. Your carpet, as an example, is off gassing formaldehyde if that carpet is made from crude oil base, which is probably nylon, right? It's off gassing. Your clothing, if it's not natural fiber clothing, if you're wearing polyesters, nylons, ladies, lycra bras, these things are off gassing these estrogen mimicking chemicals directly into the body and disrupting hormones. So when we look at the environment, it's anything we breathe, anything we drink, anything that we eat, and anything that comes into contact with our skin, be it soap, aftershave, toothpaste, makeup, any of that stuff. Anything that touches the skin should be edible. Otherwise, you shouldn't put it on your body. It's that simple. I don't know, Carter, did we talk about essential? Yeah, we talked about essential oils in the last podcast, right?
Sure did.
Those were born in like ancient Egypt times. Those essential oils they're medicines to heal people and protect the body and boost the immune system. And some of them taste really and smell really good, like essential oils of orange. Mm-hmm. Orange is wonderful. So women started putting them on their bodies, not for healing benefits, because they wanted to smell pretty. They wanted to smell good. There's nothing wrong with that. But then this chemical industries took those natural cofactors and flavonoids and stuff out of nature, and then they synthesized them for these perfumes and smells and stuff like that. Like we put on ourselves, like deodorant. And they're fake scents. And these are toxic chemicals. We're literally putting toxins into our skin. It goes right into our bloodstream. There's no liver to filter it. And then it bioaccumulates in the fat and the muscle tissue and the cells. Well, to answer your question, type in these 3 words when you're done: umbilical cord chemical into your browser and search. And you'll see the studies going back to 2005. Every single child being born today is born with 180 cancer-causing chemicals in the bloodstream and more. And that's just, they're only looking for 400, man. There's over 100,000 toxic chemicals out there. So there's way more than that, but you can't see them, right? So my job, what I believe now, as I've learned about this, is to bring the awareness. It's like putting the smell into the natural gas so you can at least smell it, know it's there, and then stop putting this shit into your body because it is destroying your health. We're de-evolving as a species. So how do you do it? You clean up your air. You crack your window at night. You crack your window during the day. When you repaint your house, make sure you're using non-toxic paint. If you're going to put carpet in, I would suggest not doing it at all because carpet's friggin' nasty. If you ever take it apart and look at it, it's disgusting. But, get natural fibers. Just get a damn rug, right? If you're going to put hardwood flooring in, do hardwoods. Don't do laminates. Laminates are another crude oil derivative. Chemicals. MIT, they showed that there's off-gassing. It's directly linked to autism in children. So the babies are crawling around on laminate floors and they're breathing these toxic chemicals. Right. And they're bioaccumulating. You can't see them, but little by little, day by day, inch by inch, it's like the 8th wonder of the world, financial advisors. What is that?
Compound interest.
Compounding interest. You have compounding chemicals going on in your body. And the older you are, the more time you've had to breathe them in, drink them in, eat them in, get them through your skin. So people are so polluted today. The researchers and scientists referred to it as a body burden. It literally is. It's like a backpack of toxins that are destroying your immune system, destroying your energy, literally eroding your brain, your mental thought. And then look at when I first started this work in 2011, there was like 25% of the baby boomers, your guys' main target client has Alzheimer's and dementia and memory loss. A couple years later, it was like 2012, 2013, it was up to 28%. It just keeps going up. Like they're losing their minds. And there's many factors, the amount of sugar they're eating and stress, but a lot of this is this toxic chemicals and aluminum. We get our clients that are older like that to stop eating out of aluminum cookware, get off these, GMO sugars that are very well sprayed, whether it's sugar cane or beet from sugar beets, the GMO crap. And when we start cleaning their body up, putting the bacteria back in their gut and just doing these basic things, plugging them back into nature. So it's the air you breathe. I have an essential oil diffuser over there to clean my air. I have a Himalayan salt lamp that produces negative ions. And most importantly, I've got a badass industrial level in-home air purification system. My room smells like mountain air right now, and it's charged. People come into my room and they're like, whoa, dude, what's going on here? It's like, it's so good. I feel like I'm lifted up. It's the inputs to your system, and we have to be an intelligent operator. We have to be an intelligent controller. So the strength of your system is only going to be as good as the strength of the controller. So when you sense something like you're not feeling good, you're overweight, you're kind of falling off the wagon, you're not feeling as good, your energy's down, you're on medication, so you have MS or whatever, you start getting some symptoms. Like me, I had eczema and skin issues. Those sensors are there for a reason. They're telling you as a controller that you need to change the input. So the inputs, the biggest ones to change are air and then your water. You got to get your water dialed in, dude. If you get this dialed in, it's going to help you so much, because if you get your water, well, let me ask you this. What kind of water do you drink now? Where do you get it?
An RO system.
Okay. Is it from your home?
Home and office. I have it both.
So you have an RO system. So you're actually way more advanced than most people. So it is a single purifier, or is it a triple purification system?
No clue.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, triple's best, because whether it's a reverse osmosis, that's what RO stands for, listeners, in case you didn't know, because there was a point in time where I didn't. There's also deionization and distillation. Any one of those three methods are methods of purification. But anytime you use them, the first time, you're only going to pull out 90% of the contaminants when you run it through those purifiers. That's why we believe in triple purification. But if you're on city tap water, then the high pressure pipes have coagulated those water molecules. So instead of 4 or 5 in a cluster, they're like 20 to 25. They're too big. They can't go through the intestinal lining very well at all. It's like a bowling ball trying to go through a chain link fence. So you want to restructure your water too. Those are the two things that have to happen. Purify the water. Sounds like you're doing that. But if the water's not restructured, you're missing a huge component. You're just going to be drinking a lot of water. And you're going to be peeing it out, and you're not going to be hydrated enough. And water is the lubricant of life. The water is going to help you with your joints. People have arthritis and stuff like that. The first thing you got to do is get their water right. You want to be smarter. You want to raise your IQ. You got to get your water right. You want to get the toxins out of your body. You got to get your water right. It's got to be clean, and it has to be restructured so it can get into the body and get into the cells and do the job it needs to do. Those two things right there, just getting the air and water right, are freaking huge game changers, because once you have it ready, you just breathe the air and you drink the water. It's not really that hard. Now, beyond that, then you start looking, cleaner foods, organic, local farmers, shop fresh, even better. Start growing herbs and sprouts in your home with your children and get them involved, and have food that's 30 times more nutritious than fresh baked vegetables right in your home. It's a fun thing to do. It's a great thing to do for families. I love to do this for churches and go in and teach them sprouting classes and stuff like that. And when I was a kid, I don't know about you guys, but remember we grew a sunflower sprout when we were in second grade. It was like, wow, it's like freaking magic. It's like, look, it's magic everywhere. And Mother Nature is just so amazing. So those are just a few things. Get your air right, get your water right, clean up your food, that kind of stuff. Get outside, get some vitamin D as much as possible. And sprouts are really good. Living foods are very important. We could talk about biophotons. And then if people want more, you can go to my website, Brad, at chemicalfreebody.com. And when you hunt around, the little thing pops up that says you want a free gift. That's our core 4 secrets, our ebook. And we have our core 4 things. That one of them's your water right. The other one is, chewing food until liquefied. Number 3 is avoiding liquids with meals. And number 4 is doing breath work before you eat or when you're stressed. But we break it down, and 95% of people plus are not doing those 4 things. And when we've seen people start doing them, this is the foundation to the health. This is before you exercise, before you change your diet, before you do any of that other stuff. You have to get the foundation in place. It's just like building a good asset portfolio for your clients.
I got to be honest, that's not the answer I expected. I mean, it was great. But just not, that tells you how much I don't know, is I didn't have any idea that that's where you were going to take that. So good info. Thank you.
I had no idea I was going to go there either. It just happens. But it's like, it's common sense, right? When you think about it, like, I'm an intelligent system. My inputs are going to dictate. It's like you have a car, you $50,000 car,
logical,
and it takes premium gas. You're like, I'm not going to put premium in it. I'm going to put unleaded. And then before I shut the tank, I'm going to throw a couple little chugs of water in there. It's like, that is stupid. Nobody's going to do that, but that's what we're doing to our system, to our very intelligent system. And it's very intelligent because it's amazing for the crap that we put our bodies through that we're still alive. It just goes to show you how wonderful of a system we are. And if you get your air right, your water right, and you get your food cleaned up, your body's just going to come back. Like people on our program, and we actually have products to help people speed up this process, detoxing and all this stuff with these little clinics in a box we deliver. And, usually within about 6 months, on average, people literally will look 5 years younger and feel about 10 years younger. And the reason why is because a lot of it is they're so dehydrated. They're so deficient in nutrients, and they're so stressed out. And if we can help, and they're so polluted that if we can just give them some stress reducing strategies, pull the toxins out of their body, flood their body with nutrition, they just come back to life. And it's not magic. It's just common sense.
It's like water in a plant.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. That's exactly right. So, I got to tell you, because you just sort of hit on it, Brad. You were like, I wasn't expecting that to be the answer, right? I was like, whoa, right? Like drinking out of a fire hose. This is my favorite segment. Every single time when I do a podcast, this is my favorite segment, because now I've heard Tim in that sort of, I've heard that version of that, 25 different times. But I love every single time whenever I hear it, especially whenever the guest is like, whoa. Like I was expecting like something like, blasé answer almost, right? Like it's like, oh, well, hey, here's a couple of things to think about or whatever. Tim is as I tell everybody whenever I interview anyone about being on the podcast, not to, no pun intended, but he's a wealth of health information, right? And his podcast that he had, and when we joined forces, he's had 105 different guests on your show. Is that right?
Yeah, we're getting up there. We're on. Yeah, I've got over 100 episodes, and most of them have guests. I've done probably 10 episodes solo.
Yeah, but he's always getting this type of information that he's sharing with you with guests that are all in the health arena primarily. So that's why, us doing this podcast, I love doing it, because we are delivering amazing information. I'm the biggest benefactor because I'm his co-host, right? And,
Sure.
Without your health, it doesn't matter how much money you got, which is why we started this podcast.
Yeah.
So pretty awesome.
Well, thanks for coming on, Brad. We really appreciate your time today, brother. It was a good show. You brought some good energy and some good stories. We really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I could, I would just end by saying, I mentioned it earlier. I love meeting other advisors. I love learning from other advisors, what they've done that's worked, what they've done that doesn't work, like all the things. And whoever's listening, like I would love to connect with anybody and everybody. Everything that we've got here at Fiat, we put a ton of time, energy, and effort into being who we are. I'm not scared of my competition, which means I'll share anything I have if the expectation is mutual. So I love meeting other advisors. So if you want to reach out and see what we've done that's worked and where we failed, more than happy to share, and would love to learn from y'all as well.
Yeah. And to that point, Brad, that was the thing that I was really encouraged by when we were talking last is, and we haven't done this yet, but I think that you would be a great partner in this to create like a mastermind where we can start having these type of mastermind meetings where we could, because look how easy it is virtually to meet all over the country now, right? Yep. So start having these masterminds where we can really, the whole idea of iron sharpens iron, right? And a lot of the advisors that have been on our podcast, they want to, to be able to be enriched with other, because look, you're in Minnesota. The advisors we work with are in Washington State, or they're in Florida, or they're in Texas. I mean, there's plenty of clients to go around. I mean, you know the stats: 10 to 11,000 baby boomers a day are retiring for the next 15 years. That's going to be really hard to get to all of them, right? So there's plenty to go around, and not all of them are going to be 4A clients, right? So anyway, with that being said, I think it's a great idea that, offline or whatever, we can start talking about creating a mastermind. But yeah, enrichers.
Well, you just said it online, not offline. So now you just committed to yourself.
I did.
I can't wait till you call me back and tell me you created it.
Yeah, we got to start.
You just told everybody you're going to do it. So
yes, we are going to do it for sure. I meant like offline, we can like determine on how.
I understand. I know. I'm just giving you guff.
But the enrichers that are listening right now, and thank you for joining us for another show of the Health and Wealth Podcast. We really enjoy the time that we get to spend not only on the show, but also sharing these types of insights. They are predominantly, other advisors that are, working and growing their practice and everything. And I think that, Brad, you contributed greatly to not only your backstory, but the fact that, you were willing to share your success and what got you to be successful there at Fiat Wealth Management. So do you want to also, I want to give you a platform. Do you want to talk a little bit about how advisors can find you and maybe share your own podcast? Go ahead and give that a plug.
Yeah. So just to piggyback on what you said, I wouldn't be who I am today in this industry if it wasn't for advisors that came before me that were willing to share what they knew. Right. And so I pay it forward. And at the end of the day, I don't know everything. I'm going to make mistakes. Like, we're not the best, like all that stuff. That's all true. But I also have something to give, and I would love to continue to learn. So with that said, everything you want to know about Fiat is on our website. It's fiatwm.com, fiatwm.com. Even our podcast is there. So we have our own podcast called Every Day is Saturday, trying to kind of build this brand, this lifestyle brand of, living that. It's not Friday because you still had to work that day. It's not Sunday because you're worried about working the next day. It's that Saturday, that one day you have that week where there isn't that half day of work or the concern of working the next day. So that's what we're trying to build from a lifestyle perspective. So you can check that out. Every Day is Saturday. We've got, we started about a year ago. We're 25 or so episodes in, having a lot of fun, a lot of education there. There's obviously some specific stuff to our firm, but just trying to bring additional education to people. It's my favorite part of what we do is
the podcast financial education?
It is. Yeah. It's primarily financially related. We do a little bit of ancillary education. So we also do an inner circle workshop for the people that are kind of in our bloodstream. We don't invite the general public, but we talk about, like, our guest this month. We do it the last Wednesday of every month, is a behavioral, I don't know if scientist is the right word, but trying to help people transition into retirement and find purpose in life after their career. And so we've got a specialist or a guest coming on to talk about that. We have had travel agents on to talk about what it's like to travel during COVID and how do you do this and all that kind of stuff, because it's a big part of retirees' lifestyle. So there's a lot of education around finance, but there's just a lot of fun on there too. Teaching people how to spend their money, really.
Yeah. Every day is Saturday. I love that mentality, by the way, because even myself, that, a 7-day-a-week entrepreneur, right? I mean, you're never out of, working or whatever, but Saturday is the least amount of work. If there was one day that we typically,
there's no such thing as a 6-day-a-week entrepreneur. You're not an entrepreneur if it just doesn't work that way. No. You live, eat, breathe, sweat what you do. And we love it. I wouldn't change it. It's not a complaint. Like, I absolutely love it. But at the end of the day, I want for the families that we work with, the people that we interact with, to be able to have that mentality. So, check it out. fiatwm.com is where you can find everything you want to know about us. Probably a lot.
I always like the motto. It's like, for entrepreneurs and people like that, it's like, I will work 60 to 80 hours a week so that I don't have to work 40. That's the deal. All day long. But what's cool is when you put your effort into it, eventually there's a time where you can just like, I'm going to bounce for a month and I'm going to go do this. And you come back and the business is still running. So, it's building something that can run without you. That's what's really cool too. So,
We don't have a business if it can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, end of story, right? If it can't
Good
run
job.
without you, you are the business, which means you don't have a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a pretty cool task to try to accomplish, is to replace yourself over and over and over again.
Yeah, well, I have a saying that I use around here all the time. I stole this, but I'll go ahead and use it. But, advisors, and this is why we try to do everything that we do around here. They're so busy working in their business, right, that they don't have time to work on their business. So
absolutely,
that's one of the things that we try to take away as much as we possibly can for them to really do the things that they want to do, which is to build those relationships, right? And we are in the relationship business. How do you win that relationship war in the financial services practice is in financial services arena? That's what we've been trying to, crack that code since I launched the CSI Financial Group, and then ultimately Epic as well, almost 8 years ago now. So it was with that mentality from the beginning, is how do I differentiate myself? And then by extension, how do I differentiate the advisor in that super competitive space that you're in? And I think that what we can do together, Brad, it's going to be fun. We're going to create a mastermind, and we're going to be able to help everybody help one another. The rising tide lifts all ships.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So, hey, Enrichers, thank you so much for joining us for another podcast of the Health and Wealth Podcast. To be able to hear any of our previous podcasts, make sure to check out our website at www.thehealthandwealthpodcastshow.com, and make sure to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Podbean, or wherever you get it. For my guest today, Brad Gotto of Fiat Wealth Management, and my co-host, Mr. Chemical-Free Body himself, Tim James. I'm Carter Wilcoxon, CEO and founder of CSI Financial Group and co-founder of Epic Services Company. Wishing you all a very wonderful and abundant rest of your day and week. And make sure to join us next time on the Health and Wealth Podcast Show. Thank you again, Brad, for coming. And we really did enjoy your time today.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Enrichers. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Health and Wealth Podcast. I'm your host, Carter Wilcoxon.
And I'm your host, Tim James. And by God, we are committed to helping you guys have fat wallets, flat bellies. So tune in again for another episode, and make sure to like, share, and drink a lot of water.
Or beer.
You have just listened to the Health and Wealth Podcast with Carter and Tim.